Следите неделно интервју на Радио Слободна Европа. Наш денешен гостин е евроамбасадорот во земјава, господинот Самуел Жбогар. Амбасадоре, македонските обврски во однос на Преспанскиот договор се веќе исполнети. Што доколку истиот овој договор не помине во Грчкиот парламент?
Well, first I have to say that the Prespa agreement, to reach Prespa agreement, you needed determination, commitment, and leadership on both sides. And we saw that by signing. We saw then this throughout the ratification process in Sobranie. And I'm optimistic that we will see that also in the process in Greek Parliament, hopefully very soon. So I remain optimistic and I see commitment on both sides to implement the agreement fully.
Значи не очекувате проблеми во однос на имплементацијата на Преспанскиот договор од страна на грчките пратеници?
Well, what I see is commitment of the Prime Minister of the Greek Prime Minister to go into the Parliament and get approval for the ratification, and we have to trust his commitment, his determination, and I think we have to remain optimistic and focus on positive development.
Дали доколку и двете страни го завршат договориното, го исполнат, Европската унија ќе се држи до ветеното во однос на отварање на преговорите за членство на Македонија во Европската унија?
Look, as I said, Prespa agreement is quite an achievement. It was difficult, it was a painful process. And our leaders in Europe, our leaders in member states recognize that. They appreciate the agreement and what it means for the two countries, what it means for the region. They commended the leaders of both countries for this agreement. And I'm pretty sure that they will have that in mind when in June they will be deciding about opening of negotiations. However, we have to remember that last year when we were talking about open negotiations, the ministers were talking about the name issue, solving the name issue, but also they were mentioning reforms. They need to be continued and they need to be deepened in the country in order to open negotiations. So I think that ministers will also be assessing how deep the reforms, how deeply the reforms were followed since last year.
Што доколку Македонија не успее да ги испорача саканите резултати до јуни, кога и ќе заседава Европскиот совет? Што тоа ќе значи за евроатланската иднина на земјава?
Well, again, I want to have, in general, I have optimistic mind. I have usually positive mind. I look at positive solutions. I don't think we should or you should be reflecting on negative scenarios, but try to focus all the energy on having the reforms fulfilled. You know, to achieve the Prespa agreement, to ratify the Prespa agreement, to change constitution, that required a lot of commitment, determination, strength, and self-confidence as a nation. And you just have to use the same in applying the reforms. If we see the same commitment, sincere commitment in applying the reforms, then I don't think we should worry what will happen in June.
Македонија треба да ги испорача резултатите во однос на реформската агенда која што е пропишана. Големо незадоволство во однос на реформите постои во однос на правосудството. Во таа област дури имаше и критики од страна на господинот Прибе, дека се уште има работи кои што треба да се направат. Ете, големо е незадоволството и генералниот впечаток и во јавноста во однос на тоа дека се уште судат судии кои што се сметаат дека се главни кочничари на судските реформи во одреден период. Како вие би ги оцениле резултатите кои што се направени во делот на правосудството?
Well, first, I think a lot has been done in judiciary. The reforms are continuing in judiciary. There was a lot of laws that were changed. There were a lot of recommendations from the Venice Commission, a lot of recommendations from European Commission that were integrated in the laws. So in that sense, I think that the progress was done, and we can be satisfied with that. Of course, what Pribe said is that there is a need to change the behavior. There is a need to change the mentality. And of course, this is much more difficult to change than to change the laws. And it also needs more time. But primarily, I think it needs the real commitment of politicians, of politics, and of judiciary. I think we are yet to see the real change in judiciary. And the real change would mean that, that judiciary is independent, fully independent, that they are resistant to the influence from politics, that they are immune against self-censorship, that they are professional, they are efficient, they are honest, that they have trust among citizens. This we are still yet to achieve. It's a process. But with the real commitment and determination of politicians and primarily of judiciary themselves, I think is achievable.
Во овој контекст, исто така големо незадоволство во јавноста предизвикаа и амнестиите кај голем дел од обвинетите за настаните од 27 април. Како вие, амбасадоре, гледате на овој процес кој што власта ни го представи како процес на помирување, а кој пак јавноста сепак го доживеа како удар на правосудниот систем?
Yes, we do understand the concerns around the amnesty that exists in public. We also insist that accountability for the 27th of April events needs to be established, and that's why we always insisted that those who committed violence, those who were organizers, will need to, the process for the procedures for them will need to continue, and they will continue, so the accountability will be established at one point in the judicial process, in the courts. At the same time, we understand the need for reconciliation in the society. There is this huge polarization that exists in the society, in politics first, but it's spread in the society as well. So there is a need for reconciliation, and it started with the amnesty on the events of 27th of April. It shouldn't stop there. I think that these activities for reconciliation efforts for reconciliation should continue. But we understand that this was a very sensitive moment in the recent history, and that there was a need to start somewhere and to start with amnesty for those who participated without violence in those events.
Уште едно прашање кое што исто така ја разбранува јавноста деновиве е и законот за употреба на јазиците, кој што официјално беше објавен во службен весник и стапи во сила, но без подпис од председателот Ѓорѓе Иванов. Како Европската унија гледа на ова прашање?
We think that the Constitution and the laws are very clear on the responsibilities of the state authorities with regard to adoption of the law, with regard to publication or promulgation of the law. It's not up to us to evaluate. I think we have Constitutional Court, who is the only institution that can give assessment how the Constitution has been implemented, or if it has been implemented properly. But it is our understanding, or my understanding, that it was quite an urgency to promulgate the law on ratification of Prespa agreement, so that the Greek Parliament can start ratification of the Prespa agreement, and so that later on the Greek Parliament could also ratify the NATO accession protocol. So in that sense, I understand why the urgency with publication of the law on the ratification of Prespa agreement.
Во меѓувреме, опозицијата побара предвремени избори во земјава да се случат заедно со председателските. Што тоа ќе значи доколку дојде до вакви избори, што тоа ќе значи за евроатлантскиот пат на Македонија? Дали тоа ќе го забави курсот по кој што се движи нашата земја?
Parliamentary elections is sovereign decision of the country, sovereign decision of the party, sovereign decision of the members of the parliament. They are the ones who will decide, and we shouldn't influence that. At the same time, of course, we have to be aware that there are certain reforms that will need to be implemented in the next months, and that will need to be calculated if there is enough time for both processes, or how one of the other processes will influence each other. As we discussed before, it's very important until June to demonstrate to member states that there is a change happening in the country with regard to reforms. But on the early elections, we leave it to the members of the parliament and parties to decide.
Амбасадоре Жбогар, ви благодарам што бевте дел од неделното интервју на Радио Слободна Европа.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having. Благодарам многу.
Вам, почитувани, ви благодарам за вниманието со кое не следевте. Довидување за 7 дена.